If you're thinking about moving to Fort Wayne, chances are you already have a pretty good understanding of what you're looking for in your next home. Stuff like number of beds, baths, if you want an attached garage, nice yard space. All these things are super important, of course, but I think that is just half of the equation, because the community, or more specifically the neighborhood that the house is located in, is just as important, or you could argue more important than the house itself. So in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the nuances of neighborhoods in Fort Wayne, so that hopefully you can get a comprehensive idea of really what to look for in your next home. Hey everyone, my name is Dave Brough. I am a local real estate agent here in Fort Wayne, and I do this channel to hopefully help people get a better idea of what it's like to live, work, play, eat, sleep in the Fort Wayne area. And if you think that we can help you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Myself and my team will be happy to assist you. So let's get right to it. Like I said before, the house itself is not the only thing that you should be considering when you're moving into Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne, like any other city, has its nuances. There are certain things about certain neighborhoods that I'd want to know, and I'm sure anybody else would want to know. So I'm going to cover most of those today. So guys, the first thing that you want to consider is the community around the house. Most people that I talk to, when they are trying to figure out where they want to live in Fort Wayne, they really base it on the community. So how do you somebody that's living out of state, or even somebody that's living in Fort Wayne, how do you get an idea of the community? Well, a few things that I recommend would be to, I know this sounds crazy, but just get out, walk around, talk to neighbors. If you're fortunate enough to be in Fort Wayne while there's garage sales, talk to people who are holding a garage sale. A lot of times these people are moving, or they just moved in. They need to get rid of their stuff. So the best source of information always is somebody who is local. So you can't get any more local than somebody that lives in the neighborhood that you're thinking about. Not everybody wants to knock on doors. I get that. But if you knock on, say, 5 doors and you approach it the right way, I think you're going to have some people who genuinely want to offer their candid sense of kind of like what's going on. Another thing, go to the local grocery store. See how people receive you. If you say hi, do they look you in the eyes? Do they look down? When you're coming to them, approaching them, do they look away? That's telling right there. Go to the parks. Just have conversations with people. It'll probably give you a pretty good idea of the feel or the vibe in the neighborhood. Go to a local coffee shop and ask people what they feel about the neighborhood. You could also go online. Most neighborhoods now have some sort of Facebook group. If not that, they have a website as well. And you can get a really good idea of how strong the community is by how active the groups are. So if they are doing like Labor Day or Independence Day parades, if they are getting together, these things make a strong community when people get together. And most people that I talk to like to be in strong communities. So one more thing about finding a community that you want to be in. You could do a bunch of research, get your own primary information from going out on the streets if you're able to. Like if you're in town, you're able to do that. But then, of course, you should be able to rely on your local real estate expert, your agent, because if they're good at what they do, they'll have a pulse on the market, and they will be able to offer that as well. So go out, get out there, walk around, go to coffee shops, and talk to a real estate agent. You should have a pretty good idea of what the community is going to be like. So guys, another thing that you're going to want to consider in the neighborhood that you're going to be purchasing a house in is the local schools. And in Fort Wayne, we've got several different school districts that you could potentially choose from based upon the location of the home. And I would start by getting on a website such as greatschools.org. Start doing some research there. We've got two fantastic school systems, Northwest Allen County Schools and then Southwest Allen County School Districts. These are both public school systems, but Fort Wayne Community Schools has some great schools too. East Allen County Schools has some good schools. So get online and really do some research on, what they're teaching, the facilities, stuff like that meets your expectations. And I will say this as well. Some people, they don't have kids, they don't have a plan to have kids, or maybe they're grown, and schools are going to be less important to them. But don't discount the factor of saleability or resale. So if you're in an area in a really good school system, whether you have kids or not, that does affect your property value. So keep that in mind. Houses or areas that have better schools just draw more people, and their home prices are more stable, and they usually accelerate at a faster pace than houses outside of those school districts, simply because more people want to be there. Okay. Another thing to consider is the ratio of owner occupied versus rentals in the neighborhood. And in Fort Wayne, we see rentals even like the higher priced areas. So in Fort Wayne, a higher priced area would be a $300,000 type neighborhood. And there's rentals in there, and there's houses that you can tell are rentals because the house just isn't well kept. The grass is just a little bit taller. There's just a little bit more weeds. The garage door is faded, needs painted, stuff like that. So if you multiply those and you've got like 6 or 7 or 10 of those in a small neighborhood, that can have an impact. You might have found a great house online only to find out that there's some rentals in this neighborhood that's going to really affect everybody else's home values or just the aesthetics of your neighborhood. So keep that in mind. And another thing that you can do is, I've already said this before, but get out and walk around. That to me is the best way to experience a neighborhood. So I'm not a rental hater at all. You can have a neighborhood with some really good rentals, and they're well kept. So just something to keep an eye out on. It's not something where you should totally make a decision based off of. So another thing to consider is safety. You can go online, and most of this information, or really all this information, is publicly available. So you can check out websites like safewise.com, neighborhoodscout.com, and then of course talk to people in the area and see what they feel about the general safety of the neighborhood. Walkability is really important for a lot of people. So you can find a home in a newer subdivision, kind of like off a busier road, and you're kind of locked in there. If you know what I'm talking about, it's got one entrance and it doesn't connect to any other neighborhoods, and you can only walk, in a little loop. Not everybody likes that. So the older, more established neighborhoods typically have excellent walking because they're just all interconnected. And Fort Wayne has actually a trail system called the River Greenway, which I was looking at the master plan. The idea is that everything is going to be connected someday, hopefully sooner than later. But our scores are getting a lot higher in that regard. So keep that in mind too, because it's nice just to not have to drive everywhere. So if you can walk or hop on a bike or electric scooter and, go get a coffee, go get some groceries, get a bite to eat, that's really nice to do, especially in the warmer months. So you're going to want to look for that. In Fort Wayne, we have several neighborhoods of houses that were actually built on wood foundations. And I don't know if they do that around other parts of the country. I think it's kind of strange. that they actually did this. And as far as I know, they don't do it anymore, but maybe they were done in the 80s. And it really is wood foundation sitting on stones. And if you keep it dry, I guess it's okay, is what I'm told. You'll have obviously a concrete driveway, stuff like that. But if you don't know what you're looking for, it can be pretty easy to not notice it, especially online. So you would only know by looking at the wood, underneath the siding between the ground, which might only be that much. So you definitely want to rely on your real estate agent for that information. If you do buy a house with a wood foundation, definitely have that inspected. You want to know if there's any sort of moisture intrusion, which would lead to a early failing of the foundation. And I'll put a list of the neighborhoods that I know in this video so that you can get a better idea of where they are and maybe look out for them. We also have neighborhoods that were built with homes that never had a gas service to them. I've noticed a lot of those are towards the northeast side of Fort Wayne, and they're all electric homes, which is, it's okay. Just know that it's going to cost you more to heat your home. I think people just generally prefer gas appliances. They operate at a lower cost per therm, usually more efficient, stuff like that. So if you have an all-electric home, a lot of these homes don't have ductwork, so they have electric ceiling heat, which is by far the least desirable heat source that you can put in a house here. So they actually had like these cables that ran through the ceiling. Some of the downsides are, of course, like if you're trying to drill something in there, you hit one of these cables, you're done, as far as I have been told. So and the heat rises. So if your heating source is above your head and you're constantly fighting, heat wanting to escape your home, I don't know why they did it exactly, but it's not a good source of energy. So keep an eye on that. They're mostly on the northeast side of Fort Wayne, and then you'll have pockets of homes that only had electric heat. So and then in the summer, because there's no ductwork, you're gonna have window units, which they're loud. They are not as effective as distributing the air throughout the home. So keep that in mind as well. We have some really good neighborhoods in Fort Wayne that are by our rivers. So we have 3 rivers in Fort Wayne, and this provides us with access to tons of great local parks to use. Generally great aesthetics, because you're not just looking at houses all the time, you're looking at parks. But the downside is that these rivers also flood. So Fort Wayne has done a lot to protect us from flooding. Maybe the federal government has, I should be more specific. But just know that if you're looking at houses, there's a lot of houses that are in floodplains, and there's a map that you can actually go to look up an address to see if it is going to be in a flood zone. It's not the end of the world. Like the last house I lived in, we paid flood insurance. It didn't bother us. We just look at that as like your total cost of living. So sometimes you can get a little better price on the home, and you just have to pay flood insurance while you have a mortgage on the property. It's been a while, I believe, since a home in Fort Wayne is actually flooded because of the river rising and then going into their home. So we're in a crazy seller's market in Fort Wayne, of course, but then around the country as well. So wherever you're from, I'm sure you're experiencing the same thing. But when the market does shift, if you're watching this video maybe a few years from now, it's 2021, we're going to see more inventory. And I've had people, they'll go through neighborhoods and they will see a lot of sale signs, which isn't the case now, but when it does happen, people start to question, like, why are so many people selling their house? Well, at first glance, that could be an indicator of something going on in the neighborhood. But if you really know the neighborhood well, there's certain areas, they just have a super high turnover rate. And it's not that people are really like moving out of the neighborhood, they're moving up or down. So if the area is large enough and presents different options of inventory, it's very common to see lots of sales in an area. So it shouldn't alarm you necessarily. It could just be people, they want to move farther away from like a park. They want to have more room for their growing family, or a family that just got smaller from kids moving out. So that's something to pay attention to. Another thing to consider is that Fort Wayne has a lot of neighborhoods that actually don't have sidewalks. So if you are somebody that likes to get out and walk and exercise in your neighborhood, and you like to do that with the safety of a sidewalk, the buffer between the street, keep that in mind, because you're not going to see that on Zillow typically. You're going to want to get on like Google Maps and make sure that the house has sidewalks if there's something that's important to you. I guess the good side about that would be if you don't want to shovel a sidewalk, then not having any would be a benefit for you. But for the rest of us, it's nice to have sidewalks. So guys, I hope this video was helpful. If I can be of service to you, please don't hesitate to reach out. We help people move into Fort Wayne almost every single day. We're talking to them, trying to guide them, stuff like that. So don't hesitate to reach out, and I look forward to maybe someday talking to you.